It was really an honor to have conversations with leaders from California and Mexico at this forum that we just hosted here at UCSD. I want to thank UCSD for hosting us, the California-Mexico Universities Opportunity Forum, where we had conversations with presidents from universities and chancellors, academics, researchers, leaders in policy, talking about how we can bridge the divide that exists between our two countries and primarily focus on California and Mexico. That's what these conversations were all about. And it was really an honor to have these conversations with all these leaders. They all had a unique perspective, a really wonderful opportunity to learn from all of them. I hope you enjoy them as well. Well, it's really an honor to have you, Speaker Pérez, former Speaker of the State Assembly, which I now proudly serve in, also former regent of the University of California system, and just a great leader in California. Thank you for all your service, for what you've done for education in California, and for being here today to be part of this conversation.
Thanks for what you're doing, and thanks for inviting us to participate with you.
It's great to have you. So today, we're having conversations about education in a way perhaps that hasn't been the traditional conversations, which is how do we work across systems? And you know that very well, being a regent and a speaker before, with our UC system, our CSU system, and our community college system, which I remind people is really important to our entire system of higher education and career and workforce readiness. But then also you add this layer of international and in Mexico, who is our most important trading partner in California. Our economy depends on that economic relationship. And so to have them here, it's a unique opportunity. Tell me about your initial thoughts. You had a chance to listen a little bit and just be open about what you're thinking so far.
Look, I think this is groundbreaking. For so long, we had a different approach to this. We had a very traditional approach where we looked at study abroad programs. We looked at traditional exchange, and that was helpful. And quite frankly, I'm proud of the work that my colleagues and I did in that space. But it pales in comparison to this new model of dual enrollment, dual degrees, of really a duality. And I think it really speaks to a San Diego mindset, because San Diego, better than any other city in the country, has identified binationalism in a way that works economically. And so now to take that concept and apply it to the educational model is something that is absolutely innovative and groundbreaking. And you're right, Mexico's our biggest trade partner. The economy of California depends on Mexico and the interaction with Mexico, but quite frankly, so does the entire economy of the United States. Mexico and California trade more than the entire United States and Italy. This is a crucial relationship. And so to take that framework and apply it to the educational model, I think can be absolutely groundbreaking, both for educational discourse, for original research, but for long-term economic output as well.
Yeah. You know, I've been talking to people about this, and we live in a challenging time where conversations that are atypical aren't really welcome, right? Especially collaborative relationships with another country seems to be taboo in many circles, to be honest. And yet you explained it really well. Those of us who are San Diegans, who have had the honor to be in San Diego, we see this as like one mega region. We always refer to it as a mega region. We depend on each other. We have literally 150,000 people across the border just at San Isidro every single day. Right. The vast majority of them to come work on our side of the border. Many American citizens now living in Tijuana because unfortunately the cost of living. And so the integration, which is people like to refer to the relationship as let's build bridges and not walls, is sort of was a theme for a while. You know, I'm kind of beyond building bridges. We just had to figure out how to integrate because we depend on each other. And so that's what this conversation is about today. And you've captured it so well, but we haven't done it.
Let me challenge the integration, because I think oftentimes when we talk about integration, people have a specific idea of what that means.
Yes.
And so I think there's an alchemy here. Maybe it's an amalgamation, right?
And
the notion of bringing these two elements together and creating an element that's even stronger.
Which, by the way, has happened despite all the barriers that we've put in place for a variety of reasons.
Right.
Regulatory, obviously, laws that are in place. This region has found a way to thrive even with the multi-hour wait time, with trucks idling and creating, environmental hazards, we found a way to make it work, not with a lot of real focus and support from really important powers that be at the federal level, but regionally we have, and in California, certainly under your leadership and others, we have. So that's what's exciting about today, because even after we're all gone in the positions we're in, whether you're in elected office or a leader of an institution or university, these programs can remain in place to help to build that fabric and that society that we need for the future. And what better place to find hope for a better future than our students at our institutions? You know that quite well.
Absolutely. And look, California institutions are greater instruments for upward mobility than anywhere else.
So don't need to tell me, right? I come from a family, poor, parents never had a first grade education, and I had a chance to receive a degree and, come up to the middle class. My wife, the same, first generation. Right. Now we try to do the same for others. You're absolutely right. Thank you for mentioning that.
Hey, but so people think of me as a UC regent, but I was also a CSU trustee as speaker. And I remind people at the University of California that while the UC does more to move people out of the lowest decile to the top deciles economically than the entire Ivy League, the only institution that does a better job of that than the UC is the CSU. And in California, we have the benefit of having both.
Yeah.
And so the innovation, the creativity, the trajectory of economic growth that comes out of these institutions is amazing.
Yeah.
And now with these partnerships that you're nurturing with top-level research institutions in Mexico, I think you're really going to unleash things that people had not previously thought possible.
It's definitely exciting. And I want to ask you, because you talked about what maybe you could categorize as the superficial, the student exchanges, which I think have a lot of value too, right?
They do.
And as someone, I share this all the time now, who did not have an opportunity or did not take advantage of the opportunity to study abroad, and biggest mistake I made, and I encourage every young person I talk to, you've got to do that. It's great. But we're talking about another level. You're talking about sharing research. You're talking about creating dual degree programs so that you have a workforce that's prepared for a world that's changing. You see it, front and center in your roles that you've had as a trustee, as a regent. Tell me about why that matters. Why should we be doing this?
Well, it matters because it gives our students a broader sense of the world. And it helps open up pathways of thinking and pathways of experience that they wouldn't have otherwise. I, like you, didn't take advantage of study abroad. It's very hard to navigate. When I was a student, I'm sure it was still hard to navigate when you were a student. So we ought not forget that that's still an important element. And then the question is, how do we build in systems that make it easier to navigate? So in the UC system, UC Santa Barbara is the most effective at getting students to study abroad. And one of the things they do is they build it into their financial aid package.
Oh.
And so you take out the financial questions for students that are financial aid. And here's how we're going to...
And any first generation student would be like, how am I going to do this? Like, how am I going to pay for it?
And so building it into the financial aid formula, making it something that's expected, completely changes the experience and the opportunity for folks to participate. How do we model that at other UCs? How do we model that at other CSUs? How do we make that more? Because that's a necessary first step for a lot of students before we get them to do these dual degree programs, these other deeper dives. So it's not either or, it's how do we do both? That's,
I always use the phrase, if you don't see it, you can't be it. And if so, you don't see that you could actually afford it, you don't even really think about it, or you maybe think about it and you pass on it immediately, because how am I going to do that? It's not. And for first gen students, that's always, just getting through college is already, a success, because how those numbers unfortunately aren't as great as they should be. I want to talk to you about first generation students, because you, tell me about your pathway to college and why you believe in our strong public education system in California.
So like you, I was a first generation student. My father immigrated in 1953. He had a 6th grade education because that was as far as education went in the hometown he grew up in, small town. His younger sister only had a 3rd grade education because there was this outmoded notion that why did she need to go beyond that? She was brilliant. They both were. And both were phenomenally self-educated and were lifelong learners, but just not in traditional institutions. My father would tutor my sisters and me in trigonometry because he taught himself higher math, even though he had a 6th grade education. He would sit with us and argue Greek mythology and some of the works of some of the classic writers. There was this passion and love for education, but the opportunity didn't exist for him. My mother was born in Los Angeles in the 1930s. She grew up in foster care, and the opportunities didn't exist for her either. But again, somebody who was a lifelong learner, who had a deep passion for reading and for literature and knowledge. And so my parents made sure that we all had as much opportunity to seek an education as we wanted. And my sisters and I all, enjoyed the opportunity to go to college because my parents made sure that that was something that we valued. And because the state of California made that a real possibility for us. And those possibilities are in jeopardy as we look at what's happening at the national level. So it's really important that the state of California continue to step up and keep pathways to accessible education available to all our students. And again, we have the best system of higher education in the country. All 3 systems. Our community college systems are top-notch, but not as even as they need to be. They're because of the way community colleges are funded locally, there is a inconsistency in funding and support levels geographically. And so we've got to do a better job. If you look at inland California, we don't do as well as we could. If you look at California north of Sacramento, we don't do as well as we could. These aren't just issues of racial inequality or even class inequality. They're also issues of geographic inequality. And so we have to concern ourselves with all of those things and make sure that the opportunities and the benefits that come from higher education are afforded to everybody.
Well, if we want to keep California to be the state nation that it is and competitive and the innovation that happens here and the job creation and all of that, now I've had in the responsibility as chair of the budget committee for the entire state to have to balance that, because you want to have the access for students throughout California. You don't want to limit it to others who live in regions perhaps where the geography for some reason creates a barrier. So those are all considerations. You certainly had to weigh all those as speaker. And those are things I think about now. But we've got to prepare that workforce for the future. And I think that's what this what excites me about these conversations, because we are now globalized in so many ways. And whether you have a technical degree or even a theoretical degree, right? Being able to practice once you receive your education in a way that's much more, I'll use the phrase cultured and prepared, the more valuable you'll be. And those are the types of students we want to graduate from our systems, whether you're a community college student, a CSU student, or a UC student. So,
right. And look, I think there are challenges to systems of higher education. There are people that are questioning the value of higher education. There's a focus on career technical education, which is crucial as well, right? So these aren't either or questions. They're how do we support students in each of these pathways.
Right.
But at CSU and increasingly at UC, we're also looking at taking advantage of modalities of interaction and experiential learning, right? So that there's an application. But as you said, you have to be able to see it. You have to be able to have this direct connection. I'll give you an example. In the UC system, we produce a lot of PhD students. And the faculty for universities across the country. Berkeley has the highest percentage of their undergrads go on to PhD programs. Who's number 2? Berkeley's the oldest campus. Who's number 2? The newest campus, Merced.
Wow.
Merced is second only to Berkeley in the proportion of its graduates who immediately go into PhD programs. Now that's counterintuitive because Merced is disproportionately first-generation student, disproportionately Pell Grant student, disproportionately students that you don't think of as
Pell Grant means lower-income students.
Correct. Right? Disproportionately students that you don't think are going to be the next PhDs. But they're students who have hands-on experience doing direct original research with faculty members. And then they see not only that they're interested in it, but that they're able to do it and thrive in it. And so how do we take advantage of that experience and figure out more hands-on experience for students in direct original research and expand those pathways as well.
I'm going to ask you one question that's a little bit off topic, but it's really important because you were the architect of a very important program that we have in California that a lot of families ask me about. And I certainly am starting to think about this as I have a sophomore now and a middle schooler now. No more kids in elementary school. And we've been doing our due diligence of putting money away in our 529 accounts, college savings account. But for middle-class families, I was definitely poor, and so I qualified for all the financial aid that's out there, and I'm glad it exists, and we've strengthened that in California, and that's great. But as we have middle-class families in California where tuition and education expenses and living expenses, where now living expense actually is more than tuition.
That's right.
At all of our universities, unfortunately. That's a reality for middle-class families. I'd like to pick your brain while I have an opportunity to talk about how we can do more to make sure that working middle-class families are also having access and we're not creating or perpetuating barriers, right, financial barriers for families, because they all believe in California. That's why they're here. That's why we stayed. Now we want to raise our families and we want to give them those same opportunities. How do we do that?
Yeah. So, decade and a half ago, I authored the first iteration of the middle class scholarship. It took us 2 times to do it. And it's exactly the experience you're talking about. California has always been thoughtful about financial aid for the neediest students. I too was a financial aid student. I qualified for every kind of financial aid that existed. My college counselor told us when we were applying to college, don't look at the bottom line. The good news is you're poor. You're going to get financial aid and we're going to make this work. And it was a great frame. Don't worry about it. You're poor. It's going to work out. But middle-class students got squeezed. And during the Great Recession, they particularly got squeezed because year after year, as the Great Recession cut back on funding for universities, tuition went up. And I saw families that had prepared as thoughtfully as they could to get their student into college, only to be priced out because of these raises. And so there are 2 things that I thought were important. One, creating a cohort tuition model, which we passed while I was on the Board of Regents, so that when you get admitted into UC, you're told what your tuition is, and it never changes for your entire time as an undergrad. So your family has a guaranteed price that will not go up. That certainty matters. But also the middle class scholarship, because families that were in that donut hole that were
not poor enough
to qualify for financial aid, but not rich enough to afford it, and who couldn't even during the Great Recession draw down on home equity loans, which have traditionally been used by a lot of families to finance education, because mortgage, home values went down. You literally lost opportunities for middle class families. So we created the middle class scholarship. It basically gave 40% financial aid to cover the cost of tuition. And then UC and others have figured out other financial aid to wrap around. But it's important. We can't leave our middle class families behind. We have to create opportunities for them to thrive and take advantage of all that California has to offer.
Agree with you. To close, Mr. Speaker, just your reactions from some of the, maybe you listen into some of the panels, some of the panelists, some of the conversations, maybe 1 or 2 takeaways that you hope you see come to fruition.
The best part of the day was before the panels.
Okay.
When you expected a handful of people to sign an MOU.
That's right.
And half the room got up.
Yeah.
Everybody in the room who was eligible to sign an MOU got up and signed it. The fact that you have 1/3 of the chancellors from the UC system here, you have 1/3 of the presidents of the CSU system here, you have the head of the community college system here. There is an excitement for this exchange that is unparalleled. And so today is the beginning of the next step.
That's right.
So what I'm excited about is the promise of what comes out of today.
Well, I want to thank you for being here, for being part of the effort, for being a champion on education issues. So many things we can work on and champion in California. I find this to be the most important as someone who came from literally nothing to where I am today. We got to keep that alive for future generations. Thank you.
Thank you.